All right, let's just jump right in. What if we could peel back every single layer of our universe? I mean, go past the galaxies, past the atoms, past physics itself. What if we could find the fundamental operating system running underneath it all? That's what this is all about. We're taking a journey into RP9, a framework that tries to figure out the absolute base-level code that has to exist before you can even describe a reality.
And this right here makes a really crucial point. We are not talking about a new theory of physics or quantum mechanics. No, RP9 steps way back from all that. It's more like an analysis of the logical blueprint that any system of information would need to even exist in the first place. It's literally the rules for the rules.
And that, of course, brings us to the central kind of mind-bending question of this whole thing. You know, before you have physics, you need math. And before you have math, you need logic. But what do you need before you can even have logic? What are the absolute rock-bottom conditions for anything to even be definable?
So let's try to boot this system up from scratch. We're going to trace the genesis story of how a reality can be formulated, starting from the most fundamental point you can possibly imagine, the very possibility that structure itself can exist.
Okay, so the first thing to get your head around is that we don't start with a particle or some energy field. We start with pure potential. We begin with this state of, well, nothingness. And from it, we just say that a distinction can be made. This is the simple idea that this can be separated from not this, even before we have any idea what this actually is.
So once that possibility becomes real, the whole system just clicks forward. Differentiation happens, and we get two. The absolute minimum configuration you can have, 2 points that are somehow different. You can think of it like the very first bit of information, the first 0 and 1 in some kind of cosmic machine code.
But see, just having 2 points, that's not enough. A simple opposition like that is really unstable. Sure, A and B exist, but what's connecting them? How do you define the space between them? Without some kind of stable internal reference, the system just can't define itself. It would basically just collapse back into nothing.
So how does it stabilize? Well, for the relationship between those first 2 points to become stable and definable, a third thing has to emerge, the relation itself. And this creates the triad, the very first shape that's structurally complete and can refer to itself. It's not 1 plus 1 plus 1, it's 2 points plus the connection between them.
All right, so we've got the abstract logic down. Now let's see how this builds its first actual geometric form. This is the moment the blueprint of information gets drawn for the very first time.
And here it is, this beautiful, elegant shape, the vesica piscis. It's the perfect geometric expression of that stable three-part relationship we were just talking about. You have the center of the first circle, the center of the second, and then the relationship, that overlapping lens that binds them together into one stable thing.
Now, what's so incredible is what this one simple geometric move creates. It automatically generates exactly 7 distinct relational positions. You get the 2 centers, the 2 points where the circles cross, the shared lens in the middle, the outer boundary of the whole thing, and finally the structure as a whole. And just like that, you have a complete, static map in 2 dimensions.
So, from that one single geometric seed, this whole structured universe of logic just starts to unfold. The geometry makes the 7 positions. Then, the relationships between those positions unlock 4 fundamental ways to interact with them. And those 2 things together create a complete functional alphabet of 28 states. It's an inevitable cascade, one step logically following the next.
Okay, so we have our static map of 7 positions. The system is defined, but it isn't, alive yet. It can't do anything. So now, we introduce the rules for movement and interaction, the operators that allow the system to finally wake up and become dynamic. And these are the only 4 primary moves you can make on this game board without breaking the rules. You can combine things, you can separate them, you can scale them up, or you can scale them down. Composition, differentiation, amplification, and inversion. That's it. This is the complete set of verbs for our brand new language.
And here's where it all comes together. When you apply those 4 fundamental operators across the 7 unique positions, you get a perfectly closed and complete system of 28 functional states. This is the system's functional alphabet. No more letters are needed and you can't take any away. It's complete.
Now, this is where it gets really profound. With a complete language, the system can start to describe stable patterns. And it turns out the great universal constants of mathematics, they aren't things you have to program into the system. They emerge all on their own, like echoes and resonances of the system's own internal geometry.
This captures the idea perfectly. Constants like pi aren't just arbitrary numbers. They are proportions and relationships that are woven into the very fabric of the system from the beginning. They're consequences of the system, not assumptions. The system is, in a very real sense, discovering its own properties.
And what properties they are. You get pi, which is the stable rhythm of rotation. You get phi, the golden ratio, which describes the pattern of self-similar growth. The square root, which represents the logic of how things scale. And even the Fibonacci sequence, which shows the system's ability for recursive memory. These aren't just numbers. They are fundamental behaviors that pop out of the geometry.
So our two-dimensional plane is now completely saturated with potential. It can't really expand any further in 2D without just repeating itself. So to keep developing, the system has to do something radical. It has to evolve. It has to leap into a new dimension. Now, the jump from 7 to 8 isn't just adding one more number. It is a fundamental phase shift. 7 positions give you a complete but totally open 2D network. But to create an enclosed structure, a volume, you need an 8th position. This is the moment the system literally folds in on itself, creating the very first self-contained 3D space.
And this is it. This is the final step in our little Genesis story. By creating an enclosed volume, the system becomes fully self-contained. It is structurally complete. It's a universe unto itself, with its own geometry, its own operators, and its own emergent constants.
This table pretty much lays out the whole hierarchy, the full stack, from pure logic all the way to physics. It starts with that pure relational geometry. That foundation then gives rise to the dynamic operators. Running those operators over and over generates these emergent proportions, like pi and phi. And the framework then suggests that those proportions, in turn, are what manifests as the physical constants that seem to govern our world.
And there it is, the entire boot-up sequence in one elegant, powerful line. From the pure potential of nothing, to distinction, to relation, to a complete plane, to a functional language, to the discovery of its own constants, and finally, to a closed volume. The entire journey from nothing to a closed, definable universe.
So we end right back where we started, with a big question. If a framework like this is even possible, if the structures and constants of our reality can be derived from such a tiny set of logical rules, what does that really imply? Does it mean our universe isn't just described by math, but that it, at its deepest level, is a mathematical and geometric structure? That's something to think about.